In this video, we're going to talk about setting up tow rotation. In order to set up tow rotation, there are a few steps. First, go to Responder, Preferences. And here in the General section, you have tow rotation options with a drop-down list. There are 3 options for tow rotation. You can set it by agency and grid, or agency, grid, and district. Each one successively gives you more control over different areas of your coverage area. I'm just going to select by agency and save that. Now remember, any changes you make to that preferences form, you need to log out of the software and log back in before it can take effect. Next up in setting up tow rotation is adding all of your tow companies to master names. So you're going to go in here to master names, and you can either search the names of the tow companies, or if you know they're not in there, click Insert, and then insert the relevant information here. Now we set up the tow rotation. Go to Responder, Tow Rotation. That brings up our tow rotation list. Now here I have a list already compiled. This is to give you an example to explain the importance of list IDs. But to put in your first tow rotation, you're going to Insert, and you're going to come up with the list ID, and I'm going to explain that in just a minute. Go to Towing Company, and you look this up in Master Names. When you click on this, it's going to bring up the Master Names list. Primary agency is the agency responsible for this towing list ID. And then you have Reporting District and Grid Code. Now, in the initial options, step 1 that I went over, I only selected do tow rotation by agency, so I don't need to use district and grid. But if I had selected either of those, then I would want to put in relevant information there as well. I'll cancel out of this. Now, let me describe the importance of the list IDs. You can see here I gave each one a moniker associating it with the agency it's really going to. So agency 1 in this case is the Sheriff's Office, so I named it DCSO. And I inserted all of the tow company names that are responsible for being called out to tow for this agency. So this agency only calls these 4 tow companies. And you see list ID is associated with these 4. And here's the order in which they are responsible right now, in which they're going to be called out. So the next up would be number 1, Shamrock Towing, number 2, Alum Creek Towing, etc. APD here, only Alum Creek Towing in this example, is responsible for towing for this agency. So that's all they have. And if another were to join, then you would add it by inserting it, giving it a tow rotation of APD, and now you have another tow company that can respond to that agency. Now that everything's set up, let's go see how to use tow rotation. Alright, so here we have the tow log. I'm not going to explain how to use the tow log. There is another video on how to use the tow log, so please reference that if you have any questions about tow logs. And I'm going to just jump right in here. So let's say we want to select this vehicle here, and we want to make a tow request. Now, who's responsible for towing to Sunbury Police Department? Apparently, I don't have anything on the list that's responsible for whatever agency number that is. So that's an example of where you're not going to see anything in the list. Alright, so let's pick another one. And here we have the Delaware City Police, and we have the agencies responsible for towing for them. Alright. The first one up on the list is Don's Towing, and it's in order number 1. Now if I were to select Don's Towing, I have to give it an action, and this action dictates what happens to Don's Towing for the next tow that's responsible for going out from Delaware City Police Department. Alright, so I can either accept it, move it down, accept it, don't move it down, reject it and move it down, or reject it and not move it down. You can name these list items anything you want with any codes and any descriptions. The key here is that they have the appropriate cross-reference. So the cross-reference list is what I just said. There are only 4 options, and that's the behavior that will be ascribed to these specific tow companies when you select these things. So I'm going to say I'm going to say rejected, not moved down. All right, I'm going to give them another chance. In the comments, I could put who rejected it. I'll save that. Now I need another tow. Well, I'm calling back later. Now Don's towing still up. Of course, this generally wouldn't be the case in this one. I would have normally selected a different one, and I can do that from here as well. But let's select it again and say they rejected me twice. Now I'm going to move them down, and I'm going to put the name of whoever rejected it, or whatever comments I want to keep in there. Alright, now I want to give it another go. Alright, so it still hasn't been towed, so I'm going to try it again, and I'm going to say Alum Creek Towing. They accepted, and I'll move down, and you can put comments in there. And if I were to try it again, I would see Alum Creek Towing drop to the bottom, and Chris's Towing is up next. Alright, and so if I want to see everything that happened with this vehicle, if anybody ever questioned why it was rejected by some tow company, people had questions, I can always go to the rotation history here and see precisely what happened. And if I highlight over these, I can see the comments associated with those rejections. And that's how you set up and use rotation history.